We are continuing our reading of Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 1, text 11. Ayaneshu cha sarveshu yatha bhagam avasthitaha bhishmam eva bhir rakshantu bhavantaha sarva eva hi. All of you must now give full support to Grandfather Bhishma as you stand at your respective strategic points of entrance into the phalanx of the army. So Duryodhana is still, he's a king, so he's giving the moral support, he's giving that prep talk to his team. Duryodhana, after praising the prowess of Bhishma, further considered that others might think that they had been considered less important. So, in his usual diplomatic way, he tried to adjust the situation in the above words. He emphasized that Bhishma Dev was undoubtedly the greatest hero, but he was an old man, so everyone must especially think of his protection from all sides. So Duryodhana, we can see how his political nature is, He's saying, oh, I praised all the others. I praised a few of the heroes on my part, but let me bring the morale up of the full army. Otherwise, the others will say, oh, I'm not important, so I'm not going to fight properly. So he's saying, no, everybody must support Bhishma Dev. So then what he's saying, that he might become engaged in the fight and the enemy might take advantage of his full engagement on one side. Therefore, it was important that other heroes not leave their strategic positions and allow the enemy to break the phalanx. Duryodhana clearly felt that the victory of the Kurus depended on the presence of Bhishma Dev. He was confident of the full support of Bhishma Dev and Dronacharya in the battle. Why? Why was he confident of the full support of Bhishma Dev and Dronacharya? He was first confident that they are going to win. Then he was confident that Bhishma Dev and Dronacharya will give him full support, because he well knew that they did not even speak a word when Arjuna's wife Draupadi, in her helpless condition, had appealed to them for justice while she was being forced to appear naked in the presence of all the great generals in the assembly. So he knew that, oh, Dronacharya and Bhishma Dev didn't speak up at that time. They let these things go on without saying anything. So for sure that they are going to give full support to me. They are agreeing with whatever I'm doing. Otherwise, they would have said something that time. So, although he knew that the two generals had some sort of affection for the Pandavas, he hoped that these generals would now completely give it up, as they had done during the gambling performances. So he's trying to encourage his side of the army. Then text 12. Tasya Sanjayan Harsham Kuru Vridha Pitamaha Simha Nadam Vinadyoche Shankam Dadamo Prata Pavan. Then Bhishma, the great valiant grandsire of the Kuru dynasty, the grandfather of the fighters, blew his conch shell very loudly, making a sound like the roar of a lion, giving Duryodhana joy. So Bhishma Dev, now to begin the war, Bhishma Dev, he's blowing his conch shell, and then the grandsire of the Kuru dynasty could understand the inner meaning of the heart of his grandson Duryodhana. And out of his natural compassion for him, he tried to cheer him by blowing his conch shell very loudly, befitting his position as a lion. Indirectly, the symbolism of the conch shell, indirectly, by the symbolism of the conch shell, he informed his depressed son Duryodhana that he had no chance of victory in the battle, because the Supreme Lord Krishna, he was on the other side. But still, it was his duty to conduct the fight, and no pains would be spared in that connection. So, to give some support to Duryodhana, Bhishma is blowing his conch shell. So then, one after another. Tata Shankascha Bheryascha Pavan ka gomukha sahasevabhya han yanta sa shabdas tumulo abhavat. After that, the conch shells, drums, bugles, trumpets, and horns were all suddenly sounded, and the combined sound was tumultuous. So it's like the beginning of the war. Everybody is getting ready. Tata shveter hayer yukte mahatisyan dhanistito madhava pandavaschaiva divya shanka pradhat matuhu. On the other side, both Lord Krishna and Arjun, stationed on a great chariot drawn by white horses, sounded their transcendental conch shells. Now, in contrast with the conch shell blown by Bhishma Dev, the conch shells in the hands of Krishna and Arjuna are described as transcendental. The sounding of the transcendental conch shells indicated that there was no hope of victory for the other side because Krishna was on the side of the Pandavas. So then what did Sanjaya was, he was saying when Bhishma Dev blew the conch shell, he said sounded like a lion. But when Krishna and Arjuna have blown the conch shell, he's saying it sounds transcendental. Jayastu Pandu Putranam Yesham Pakshe Janardana. Victory is always with persons like the sons of Pandu. Because, why? Because Lord Krishna is associated with them. And whenever and wherever the Lord is present, the goddess of fortune is also there. Because the goddess of fortune never lives alone without her husband. So right now in the current situation of the world, everybody wants only Lakshmi Devi. Nobody wants Narayan. But the only way we can get Lakshmi Devi is if we also invite Narayan into our home, into our hearts. Then Lakshmi Devi is pleased to be in such a place. Why? Because she does not like, a chaste wife does not like to live alone without her husband. So she is wherever Narayan is. Where Narayan is not welcome, she does not like to stay there. She might stay there temporarily, but she won't stay there permanent. Therefore, victory and fortune were awaiting Arjuna, as indicated by the transcendental sound produced by the conch shell of Vishnu or Lord Krishna. So by hearing the conch shells of Krishna and Arjuna, what is already the prediction? Oh, that the Pandavas are going to win. They're going to win. Besides that, the chariot on which both the friends were seated had been donated by Agni, the fire god, to Arjuna. And this indicated that this chariot was capable of conquering all sides, wherever it was drawn over the three worlds. So before the battle, Krishna had asked Arjuna to please certain demigods so that he could get these weapons, he could get this chariot. Why? Which will help him in the fight. So here the chariot was given to Arjuna by Agni. So it was a very powerful chariot. Imagine a chariot drawn by fire. Agni is fire. So a fiery chariot, wherever it's going to go, it's going to destroy everything. So these are a few indications of the outcome of the war. So we'll stop here for today.
Okay.
Any comments? Or?
All clear.
Okay. So thank you so much for joining in. Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Prabhupada, Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol.